the first one of our favorite 2022 moments was Austin Cindric joining us on the show, also making Ryan Flores a Daytona 500 champion. Have you won it before?
Never, no. And I remember thinking with Austin, like, man, going to the 500 with a rookie, probably don't have as good of a shot as we, once did with Brad or other guys. And golly, he did a good job. Won a race.
The 26, you won it with McMurray, but it wasn't the 500. That was the Coke 6.
Yeah, I won there with McMurray and with Tony.
In the July race.
Yeah, in the July race, and had, a lot of opportunities to win it. Really think the year that Trevor Bayne won, Tony should have won. But that's that race. How many ifs, buts, and should-haves are there that go into that speedway race?
If they were all candies and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas. Yeah, that's what they say.
Yeah,
that's what we're trying to do right here in the show.
If ifs were fifths, we'd all be drunk.
How do you rank Austin Cindric's rookie season? I thought there was glimpses of greatness, and then also times where he looked like a rookie.
He didn't run as well or as strong on the road course as I anticipated. Because he sat on a pole, I believe, last year. Didn't have the speed that I anticipated him having on the road courses. I would give him a B-.
Well, he went. Here's what matters throughout the season too. He went deep into the playoffs, right? And he was pretty close to going to the round of 8 with that last lap scrum at the Roval.
Yeah.
So, really, if you're a rookie and you go to the round of 8, man, that's
a solid year.
Pretty impressive.
What if you take that 500 out of it, though? Like, if he doesn't win the 500, where do you rate it?
If he runs second at the 500?
Yeah, like if you look at that whole season, just take that one.
Well, then he doesn't make the playoffs, so it really hurts this whole year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but if he doesn't make the 500, it's not really fair to say that, because then with him not winning a race.
Right.
You'd call the whole rest of the year different. So at tracks where you flip the stage or don't flip the stage, to get stage points, especially road courses that are a strong suit, you'd stay out and get the stage point because you already locked into the playoffs, where he could have won a road course if not.
I did like his call when he came in here to do the show after winning the 500 that he wore the leather jacket. That
he had it on at the Christmas party the other day.
Did he?
Oh yeah.
Love that.
Yep.
How was the Christmas party?
It was good.
I saw
Joey
a video.
Logano singing Rapper's Delight, and Will Power was up there on the drums. He drummed the Green Day song.
Did he?
So if you have a spot in dog ear opened up, Will Power could probably help you out.
Who's a better drummer, Will Power or Bubba?
I've never seen Bubba drum, so probably Will Power.
I don't know, Bubba can.
Now, were they singing? What were they singing together?
We Are the Champions, because they both won the championship. But
where
Joey
was it?
did Rapper's Delight.
Where was it?
On Music Factory.
Was it the Fillmore? I thought it looked like it was.
No, it was like World Nightclub. I think they rented the whole place out. But it was it was a good time. I was on 2 different pit crews this year, and none of my teammates were there.
Why?
I don't know.
They weren't down to have a good time?
Nope, and I drank champagne.
Classic.
How'd you like that?
It was terrible the next day, especially about puked and worked out the next day.
Yeah, Champagne will get you.
Yeah, the biggest thing for Austin and RP coming out of Daytona, though, getting all 3 cars, the 12 with Newman, the 22 with Joey, and now the 2 car with Austin. It's so crazy that the 2 car was the only one that didn't have a Daytona 500 win when you look at who's driven that.
Well, you can look at Brad as one of the best super speedway guys we have. He won Talladega 8 times, right? And has he won the 500? Obviously not.
No, he hasn't. That's what the year before when him and Joey wrecked, I think that's a little bit of what caused that, was just Brad's desperation to win that race. He's almost getting to, dare I say, like a Dale Earnhardt-esque. He's been so close so many times. And then you think about one of the 50 greatest drivers in NASCAR history, Hall of Famer himself, Rusty Wallace. Never got it done either.
Yeah, you don't want to be on that list.
One of your favorites.
Another good moment. We had Justin Marks join us. He zoomed in from Nash Vegas.
I do have a question about one of his drivers. Suarez got engaged. You going to the wedding?
I'm gonna be waiting by the mailbox every day, waiting for that invitation.
Something tells me if you don't get one, based on your history on track, you'll just crash it this year.
I think I'm gonna get one.
Get it?
He workshopped that joke earlier.
That'd have been 3.
He's been testing that one out earlier today.
Yeah,
so I'm glad that he actually stuck the landing on it.
Shopping that around.
Yeah, he was worried he was going to mess it up. So glad it was a good landing.
Yep. So congrats to Daniel and Julia on their engagement. Definitely a big moment, big year for Trackhouse, having that one car go all the way to the championship 4 and finishing second in points. Also, Daniel Suarez breaking through and getting that first dub of the season of his career at Sonoma. Smashing a taco on the front straightaway, and Justin Marks popped in to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, the exercise pretty early on in forming Trackhouse was, obviously, the greatest mistake we can make or the greatest decision we can make is who we put in this car to launch this company. And so, we went through the process of, looking at the driver market and going, there's a couple boxes that we wanted to check there. One was we wanted somebody with a lot of Cup experience. We wanted somebody who, when they've been in a winning situation, have closed. We wanted somebody that had a chip on their shoulder. And, Daniel was all of those things. I mean, a lot of Cup starts, obviously, with Gibbs and Stewart-Haas, like you said, so he knew how the Cup series went. He knew, who these guys were and how to race Cup races. He obviously he's a winner because, he sat in that Gibbs car in the Xfinity series and closed the deal, won the championship. He won a truck race or a couple truck races for KBM. And he had a chip on his shoulder. Like he was with those big teams. He'd gotten knocked down a couple times and was at Gaunt Brothers Racing and in that 96 car and was finishing, 33rd every weekend and was like, this isn't how my story is going to end. I need to get back. So he was pretty much an obvious choice for us. And I think when he says that this, Trackhouse was his best opportunity, and trust me, I know how that sounded at that time. I think it's because, I went to him and said, this is your race team. Like we're building this team around you. We are all about you. Just tell us what you need and I will do it for you. And I don't know if he'd ever been told that in his Cup career. And I think that's why he felt like, finally, I've got people that are truly behind me. And we can talk about what his situations at Gibbs was and at Stewart-Haas and everything. But I just don't think that there were a lot of teams that really saw the potential in Daniel as the athlete. And they saw other opportunities around Daniel. And I just saw him as somebody that I truly believed was a winner in this sport and knew for our company that if we got him there, it was going to be a great story. And Corey, we're race teams, but we're also marketing organizations and we're trying to tell stories and we're trying to cultivate followings and everything. And Daniel's, great with that. He's got a great story. He's a great brand ambassador. And I just knew that a win in the Cup series for him was going to be something that was going to, resonate deeply for a long time. And it has, and it will.
So like Justin was talking about, they built originally the team around Daniel, right? Taking the team from kind of a satellite RCR affiliation to buying Chip Ganassi Racing, which also came with, not officially, and there was some negotiating back and forth, but it essentially came with Ross Chastain, Phil Surgeon, and that entire 42 team and the whole shop. And that alone was like gasoline on a fire. Man, those guys, it wasn't like they just changed the stickers on the wall. Justin came in and changed the culture of the place. And it was pretty cool to see those guys' success they had in the deep playoff run. Almost stole one.
Yeah, he was close to winning the championship. He really was. And to think about Ross and Phil Surgeon, guys that really don't have like a loud voice in the garage, guys that are kind of unassuming, to go and do what they did and really, towards the end of the year, be the story of the year, really. Until Joey won the playoffs, he's probably the story of the year. So what those guys, Justin Marks and everybody, and Ross and Daniel were able to do this year, I don't think anybody saw coming.
For sure. And if anybody told you they had Trackhouse being successful as they were this year, they're probably lying to you. Definitely the surprise of this season. We'll see if they can follow it up. Because technically on paper, this will be their third year in 2023, but really and truly it is their second year being in that shop with that group, second year of the new car. Interested to see if they can keep that success rolling.
You feel like there's probably a hangover because that's generally like the storyline when it comes to a team that's successful. They have a career year like that where you get wins, you finish second in points, but then how do can you follow that up? Like, is anything less than a championship? Not like is
Man,
that
they were so consistent.
They just got. I think there's a lot of other teams have a lot of catching up to do, including the team and two teammates that won a championship. Penske's got some room to grow. I think Hendrick's got a little bit of room to grow. Gibbs has room to grow in all four cars. So I think how much farther up can you go other than a championship, right? If that's what you're gauging them against, I think there'll be some leveling off.
Maybe so.
Not fall off on their part, but I think advances in the other teams.
It's great. It's a great point because you talk about expectations, right? And the next guy on this list is Chase Elliott. He came in here. He had a year probably as good as Ross Chastain's. Was, starting to trend up in the championship race when Ross and him got into it and he wrecked. But, everybody's talking about how good Ross is, and Chase was on here talking about how he has a strong team, but they need to be better.
When we're looking at like fractions of like the difference.
Oh, for sure. You're splitting hairs.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's like, a fall off is.
Hey, that tip of the spear is not very wide, Chuck.
Because, I mean, like Hendrick, championship contending team, if they don't win a championship in a year, is that a letdown for them?
Well,
by their expectations, yeah.
Yes. Well, then that's the point, You look at Chase Elliott with the same numbers as Ross Chastain. I think Ross Chastain is crushing it, and Chase is not. Right? And they got the same numbers. So, expectation.
I don't know, man. You rewind back to the halfway point of the season, I thought Chase was got a beat.
Yeah.
And he touched on that consistency they needed to get through the playoffs, and it just wasn't there.
Well, and that's where you're looking at Ross, like, maybe they were a flash in the pan earlier in the season. They got those wins. And then in the playoffs, like as we're going into Phoenix, Chase is the guy that you're like, I don't know if they can do it, but it's Chase, so he might be there.
Well, if it wasn't for that big old pot of playoff points he had racked up, then he wouldn't have been able to go as deep as he did.
But still to make it to the Final Four. That's why when everybody says, well, I don't like it just being one race. Well, it's not one race.
Yeah.
Right? He got there because of the work he put in through the season and the success they had through the season. But that was the crazy part about this year. If you think you're good, wait 3 weeks, right? There was a point in time, and that's what, playoff racing and into September and October, you just got, you can not be great all year. I mean, I don't think Joey or Blaney or, Chase Briscoe was great all year. And there was also a point in time where Kevin Harvick goes out and wins 2 races right before then, and everybody's like, uh-oh.
He's back.
He's heating up, so.
We need to get him on the podcast next year, Chuck.
Kevin?
Yeah, let's work on it. We'll see what we can do. Love to see have Harv in the studio, Stank and Penny studio.
Been good to have him on the holiday episode, so you could just go, Kevin, the whole time.
I like that reference.
Yeah.
I like that. So we talked to Chase a bit. Obviously, he said his team needs some consistency. We tried to get him to compare himself to his old man if he was going to get to 44 wins. He didn't give us a whole lot in typical Chase style. I don't know, man. My dad was pretty good, and I'm just trying to keep doing my best every week.
I think you need a little bit deeper.
Oh, a little lower?
Yeah.
A little
right
more
twang,
monotone.
a little bit more.
A little more oomph on it?
Yeah, a little more up on it.
The Dawsonville oomph.
Speaking of oomph, there was some middle of the year oomph out of that 2311 camp by pulling the old swoop and swap by signing Tyler Reddick 16 months early. Caught old RC and that RCR group with their pants down, and it had everybody up in arms for weeks. But it was interesting. We had Denny Hamlin on here a couple weeks after talking about it. Does Denny Hamlin reach the potential that he is currently as a race car driver if he's in a middle to lower tier system when he gets to the Cup Series? The thought was sparked because I asked you to shift points, so we get down to third gear or whatever, and you pulled up just one little bit you showed me, but there was 19 different spreadsheets of driver information that you had, and I'm like, holy what is all this stuff? And we got off the plane and carried on.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, that's evolved, and I think it's a team-by-team basis. Ultimately, you have to have people employed that compile all the information that drivers get at the big teams, certainly. That's just a matter when we talk on the TV about resources, that's what we're talking about. Resources is not just money, it's people. And you got to have people to be able to put all that together. And some of that comes from your manufacturer. Some of it comes from in-house. But I honestly feel pretty confident that, like, my career resurged, in 2019 when we started to put more of an emphasis on give me more information, because I'm just that's what makes me tick. I'm a very analytical person. I dive into where I can be better as a driver in every aspect. It's probably why you see me speeding on the pit road so much, because I'm trying to make sure I'm doing my job to the best of my ability. To answer your question, though, I know I went a really long way around that circle, but no, I don't believe so. And I've said this on that Netflix doc that with Bubba and the team, that I truly don't believe that I'm a top-tier talent in our sport. I just think that I've been blessed with really good work ethic that was instilled by my parents. When I got a go-kart and a race car, and they didn't hire people to go work on it and fix it. He's like, this is not my hobby. This is your hobby. It's you go out there, you fix it, you work on it, you change the oil, whatever it might be. The work ethic there, and then the work ethic to look at my peers and say, what can I do to be better as a driver? What can I take from Roy Hendrick or Eddie Johnson in the short track ranks to wow, Eddie was one of those guys that was just amazing that he always used to just let people pass him for the first 50 laps, and then the last 50, here he comes, and he's got more tires than everybody else and just blows by him. I love that, so I emulated my driving style by doing that.
Super interesting to hear Denny talk about how he didn't consider he's a top-tier talent in the sport. Somebody who's won – how many races has he won? 40-something?
Close to 50.
Close to 50. Just by giving him the right people and the right data, man, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame one day. So
what's
definitely.
a top-tier talent, though? What's the most important?
Well, I
get
guess
to the Cup Series?
Well, I guess the definition of talent is just how quick you absorb something and apply it, right? So.
Well, even.
But when you say who's top-tier talent, well, Kyle Larson, right? It's just a generational guy that can race a midget. He could run a sprint car. He could run a cup car. He can run a wheelbarrow down the street at the county fair, right? Like, that guy just makes everything go fast. Joey's super talented.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know if you don't know what you're looking at, if you can necessarily see it, but I think that when Denny says that, he doesn't consider himself a top-level talent, that he can't jump in a sprint car and pick it up as quick as Kyle Larson.
Okay.
That's what I think he says.
Okay, because I didn't know if he was talking about in the Cup Series. Like, if he was saying that maybe he felt like he didn't have the raw speed like a Larson or a Blaney does.
Yeah, that's what that is. Because Denny Hamlin can make a race car go fast. No question about it.
Yeah.
Well, and I think to your point earlier about, pulling Tyler Reddick into that team and what Denny said about it's not just money, it's the people and the resources around you they can elevate somebody who, he's offsetting what he perceives to be his lack of talent with information, talent.
Takes both.
Right.
Yeah, it takes both. Takes the right people around you to get the best out of you as well. Get you the right information at the right time, figure out how to apply it. But, yeah,
he's the perfect guy to bring in-house there, though. If there was a guy that you wanted to bring there,
Tyler,
they got him. They bought him right before his stock went through the roof. And, Corey's harped on it a bunch ever since they had that press conference right there in that hotel room in Welcome, wherever they were.
Old Bubba Wallace turned the wick up after that, too.
On the gas, yeah. So somebody that is not going to try to be like an alpha dog, but will push Bubba to be better.
Hopefully, though, he can get his own pair of Jordans. No.
I can't get past
God,
that.
we hope.
I can't
Every time I've seen him now, he's got a pair of J's on. So I wonder what the policy is. Is it just a bottomless pit of J's if you drive for them? What's the deal?
Should be.
Is there a $20,000 credit? Do you get the stuff that's not out in the rack yet?
I saw Denny put up
a
video on Instagram of their Christmas party, and everybody had Jordans on. Maybe you just get them.
Maybe you do.
It's part of the welcome
You get
package.
a golf polo and a couple pair of J's.
Maybe I'll send them a resume.
Maybe so. They're looking for picker guys. Wearing some J's right now, actually. Not in support of that. I just like these shoes, Chuck. Got a couple more for you guys. Mike Helton was one of my all-time favorite guests we had on the show. What a treat for Mike to join us, talking about what everybody loves to hear, Dale Earnhardt and Jeff Gordon. Let's hear what he had to say about him. It didn't seem like Dale was a barrel full of black ink kind of guy. So how would he go try to get a point across he was trying to make?
That's why I think he was always a good friend of Bill Jr.'s, and he was a good friend of mine. But he would eat our lunch. But it's like racing against him on Sunday, and he'd move you out of the way. First guy to call you Monday morning was going to be him. He'd call Dale Jarrett. He'd call Rusty Wallace. He'd call Ricky. He'd call whoever, Darrell Waltrip even. Everybody that he had to move out of the way to win a race or get up there, he'd call him the next day and say, look, we make a living off this sport, kind of type thing. He'd do the same thing with us. He did our lunch a little bit during the broadcast when he knew he had his voice. But he would call us 6 o'clock on Monday morning. If my phone rang, it was either Bill Jr. or Dale Earnhardt. But he would go behind the scenes and say, look, this is what builds this sport. And he was right. Those types of things that he would do on the racetrack or would hold us accountable for publicly. He was right that those things are part of the sport growing, and that's why he was such a big impact on us as a league, but also us as a driver.
The change in the guard, I feel like Jeff Gordon was another guy who was like the baton from Dale handed to Jeff, more or less. So how would Jeff handle certain things that he was perturbed about?
In the same fashion, but so Dale was a good Southern gentleman with a Southern streak in him. Jeff was a good West Coast or Indianapolis type gentleman, so he might do it. He might do it differently, and you felt a little bit better when you walked away from Jeff. When sometimes Dale Senior would walk away, and you felt like you just been beat up with a baseball bat or something. But Jeff and what gave both of them the ability to do that was their credentials. I mean, they weren't coming in there saying, "Look, this is all screwed up," because they wanted an advantage. They already had the advantage, and they say, "Look, this is not right for us to be able to do this, and so not be able to do it," type thing.
I don't know about you guys, but sitting there watching it, I can't see enough video clips of looking through a window net at Dale Earnhardt Sr.
Bubble goggles, man.
God almighty. He had a swagger.
Oh, yeah.
God. And I just watching that, I've done a little bit of research because there was a little bit of conversation drummed up last week on Twitter. Some guy asked, who's your top 5 greatest NASCAR drivers of all time? So I listed my 5. It was Jimmy, David Pearson, who did I say? Richard Petty, Jeff Gordon, Dale Earnhardt, in that order. So Dale Jr. sub-gifts me with that gif of Michael Jordan saying, "Stop it. Get some help." So I said, "Junebug, you can't sub-gif on my stuff and then not put your own list out there." He was trying to skedaddle. I wouldn't make an adjustment on my 5 just after like seeing about 20 seconds Dale Earnhardt. I would put him 3rd.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
I would switch Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt. That son of a bitch was the intimidator, bro. I mean,
you don't want him. That's the one person you don't want behind you.
He had swag. So, Chuck, who's your top 5?
Well, I like that Dale came back with
no shit.
8.
I said, all right, Dale,
10.
you sub-gift me.
Yeah.
You got to give me your 5. And you go, okay, I guess I'll give you
Yeah.
Well,
10.
here's the thing that burnt him.
Senior,
It's
Cale.
the same.
It's the same 5
that you had in there. And
Plus Cale and somebody else.
He's
right?
going
He put
Senior, Cale, Pearson, Jimmy, Petty, Gordon, Kyle Busch, Bobby Allison, Waltrip, and Harvick.
Darrell Waltrip?
Yeah.
I mean, I assume Darrell.
That might be.
So is this all time, or if you're assembling a team? What is this?
That's all-time drivers.
Okay.
What's your favorite?
Who's your 5? Who's your 5?
Well, mine is
All right. So Dale and I had the same 5 minus. He swapped Cale Yarborough for Pearson, maybe.
Yeah. And
You can't give me 10. There's only going to be 5.
see, the reason I would lean toward your 5 and probably swapping out the Pearson with Cale just based off of championships.
Yeah, 3 in a row.
Like 3 in a row. Like that's big because that Jimmy was the next guy to do something like that.
Yeah.
Well, if we're going that way, look at win percentage. Chuck.
But
Now, would you swap out Cale and
Pearson's-
Jeff Gordon?
Huh?
Would you ever think about swapping out Cale and Jeff Gordon?
I would, but when you think just Gordon is the guy that I remember seeing in my youth that transcended
the sport.
the sport.
I am a huge Richard Petty, David Pearson fans. I am. But when I look back at it, them horses they were riding were quite a bit faster than what everybody else did.
Oh.
Holman Moody, Wood Brothers.
There's only 3 of them on the same lap.
And then you look at Richard Petty and Dale Inman and the stuff they had. Those guys were so good.
Yeah.
And so far ahead of everybody else. To see what Jimmy Johnson did, it's just like.
Well, who's your 5? You still haven't picked your 5?
I basically said
give me,
it's the
give me
same.
12. Give me 12.
No, I said
Junior
I would
did.
take the same 5 that he have, but I would swap Pearson with Yarborough.
Really? And you'd put David Pearson out.
At 6.
For me.
Well, David Pearson's number 1, bar none. David Pearson
Based off of what?
based off the amount of races that he entered, the amount of races he won, and the amount of championships he did. Percentage-wise, David Pearson is the best NASCAR driver of all time.
All right, that's your choice, and you're sticking to it.
And I would have Senior 3, Petty 4.
Who's second? Jimmy?
No, yeah, I put Jimmy second, yeah.
So you're David Pearson, Jimmy Johnson, Dale Earnhardt,
Richard.
Jeff Gordon.
Jeff Gordon or Bobby Allison, either one. I could go either way. Let's go Gordon.
Yeah. Who's yours?
I think for me, Jimmy Johnson sets the bar.
Me too.
Right? Maybe if he had a mustache and some gargoyles, and a cool paint job, But like he set the bar so high. He did it in a way where he never tried to be flashy or tried to get outside the box to get noticed. He just raced and won. And I think sometimes it's just crazy how fast the sport goes, and see people, it gets lost in the sauce a little bit how good he was.
Just wait until he's up for getting voted into the Hall of Fame, and we start watching some Jimmy Johnson clips back and be like, oh, my God.
I've got an ice cold take for you.
Hit me.
I'll pull Gordon off my list and put Tony Stewart on it. I'll put Tony Stewart at 5.
That's fine.
That's ice.
Yeah, I don't know. That's that icy.
It's just so tough to pick. Like, it's so subjective too.
Without David Pearson, without Richard Petty, and there's no David Pearson, right? Without Dale Earnhardt, there's no Jeff Gordon. They were like that. That was the kryptonite. But like Jimmy Johnson just took it to everybody, and there was really nobody that came until he was done. He was like, yeah, okay, I'm done. I'm gonna go race IndyCar. The one that I think that sticks out to me that is like a superb talent that's still doing it, that'll be on that list, is if he keeps going,
Kyle
especially
Busch.
his new ride, Kyle Busch, man.
Yeah.
He's just
so
easy.
good.
Yeah.
But
Kyle Busch, does he break in? Can he surpass Jeff Gordon as the greatest driver, one of the top 5 greatest drivers of all time?
Yes.
How?
He's going to have to do it off championships. He's not going to do it on wins.
Right.
And I think him succeeding at RCR in building the end of his legacy at RCR could help him pass Jeff, because Jeff did it with the greatest team of all time, Hendrick Motorsport.
You look at Kevin Harvick, right? He spent the bulk of his career at RCR. When you look back at clips of him, you're going to watch mostly the last couple years of his career in the 4-car.
Yeah.
That's where he's had the most success and kind of cemented himself, as one of the best to do it as well. But, yeah, Jimmy Johnson, and then it'd be a fight between Earnhardt and Pearson there for 2 and 3. And then I'd go Petty and
I just think
Jeff Gordon. It's just they're good.
To Dale's point, kind of, is that you almost have to do top 5 in a decade. Like, because there's really no way to compare. It's apples.
It's all about your personality and the personality of that person and who you like and what
who you grew up watching.
There's a reason. There's a reason Tony Stewart and Dale Earnhardt are on my list of 5, because
that's who you grew up watching.
They would light you on fire if they had to win.
Yeah,
and that's what you like. That's what I like to watch.
And it's your top 5, man.
It's yours.
It's yours.
Just saying.
I can't convince you.
No one's gonna, unless you're Dale Jr. throwing shade at people on Twitter,
and then come back with the same 5.
Come back with 10 instead of 5. Just pick your 5, man. It's okay. Nobody's holding a gun to your head. And you know what?
Yeah, you think
change it if you want to.
You think he picked 8 because he liked the number?
Maybe.
I think he picked 10.
It was. Let me go back and count the actual numbers.
I think it was
that
10.
He had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah, it was 10.
10.
Fucking 10.
10.
He was just seeing double.